back and we'll introduce ourselves.
Mike Valencourt.
Bill Cook.
Arlene Tunny,
Mark Bell.
Elizabeth Moss.
We're going to talk about Plat 6, Lot 33, fire number 85, application by Tom Martucci for a new sign for the hostel. I was talking to the people on the planning board, and they want to know why it's just employee housing. Why does it have to have a sign?
Just wanted to put a sign on it.
Hmm?
I wanted to put a sign on it. Wanted to
Okay.
give it a name.
I don't think there's any question about this. This is 6-inch high letters. And it's a simple sign.
Make a motion.
What's your motion?
Other than.
What's your motion?
My motion is on plot 6. Lot 157, or no, plot-
Lot 3-3.
yeah, -3, to approve the hostel sign with the 6-inch letters, and it's 4 feet 4 inches long. It's it's the sizes which we required, and every building should have a name.
I second it.
Any discussion?
I have one question.
Put your
Not
mic,
the-
put your mic on, Mike.
Not that it really makes a whole lot of difference on this particular application, but it's incomplete. The building frontage is not included in the application. Obviously, there's no other signs on the building, so we're not concerned about that. But it probably does come into effect on the next application.
It-
No,
That might have been, just for clericals, I couldn't read Mr. Martucci's handwriting, so I typed them out. I probably left it off. That's not his mistake. I just,
one here.
yeah, I retyped them because
That doesn't really matter who.
I know, but it was on his original paperwork and I couldn't read the handwriting, so I typed it out.
So what is it?
It's on my desk, all of the signs match what is proposed for the buildings.
I'm sorry.
All of the signs meet the requirements for building frontage.
Yeah, but does the footage, square footage?
Yes.
The whole building.
Yes.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm staying since I was.
Understandable.
Couldn't find my glasses.
The next item on our agenda is Plat 6, Lot 157, fire number 212 on Water Street. For new signage for multiple businesses, and that's the Finzel building. And what we don't have here is the size of the text. Text is not supposed to exceed 12 inches high.
I put the size of the signs.
And just for the record, some of these signs have already been approved.
By who?
The board,
Which ones?
the pasta patch one, the bunkhouse, and the 1BI
And the clam cake.
and the clam cake. Yes, there was 4.
The pasta
Yep,
with prepared foods and deli, yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
So that's been approved.
yes. So the
So-
pasta,
Why is it here?
because it
Because,
was in the,
Added small order here and pick up here signs.
What's the size of the lettering on the bunkhouse?
I gave you the,
we already approved that one.
We did.
The bunkhouse, the clam cakes, the 1BI and the pasta patch are already approved. But because they're proposed signs, they had to be on there.
So it's the supplemental order here,
Yep.
the ones that are enhancing the information.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, Just for clarification.
Clam cake was approved?
Yes.
Yes.
What? Were they in my box?
They were in your box.
Said in bottom.
Do you want mine?
Yeah, please.
Yep.
You want me to go to a box?
If you, I can just pass it.
Thank you, Mark.
Don't hurt yourself, Mark.
So what are we looking to approve here then?
The order signs?
The what?
Yeah.
The order
Order here.
and pick up here
Oh,
and the little white ones in between the,
And one under the pasta patch, prepared foods. That's the new one.
right.
Yes, ma'am.
well, I'd like to make a motion to approve those signs.
Yeah, I have no problem.
Second.
Boston
Perfect timing.
79.
79.
Any discussion?
Wait, who made the motion?
Arlene.
Arlene made a motion, I seconded.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. We're in,
Nice. additional
Preliminary.
signs.
Thank you so much.
Number one.
we've just finished the signs. TMG Realty again, Plat 6, lot 157, fire number 212, application for poles, fencing, and fencing for lighting. Want to tell us about those poles? Do you have a survey that shows that they're on your property?
Yep, right there.
It is,
That they're physically on my property?
what?
You're asking, what's your question?
Sorry, my back is spasming.
I have a plot map that I've attached to there that shows the layout of the poles and the lighting and the fencing.
And the property line?
You didn't ask for it in the application, so.
Well, it should be on your property.
It is on my property. It's the exact same spot that the poles that were there for 50
They
years.
they weren't poles, they were short bollards.
They were 4 feet tall, anywhere between 3'7" and 4'6". Or all the old
And these are
poles,
how tall? 9 feet,
8 feet.
8 feet.
They're the exact same height and size as the ones at the lunch bucket. They're 2 inches larger than
Which is the lunch bucket?
where the post office is.
Yeah, they don't have permission either, but
Okay. So they're an extension of the poles that were already there. I was first after safety because I've cut through that property a lot of times at nighttime and it's always dark and was never lit up in the past. So also was copying what the barn does and what the Surf Hotel does, and that hanging the festive lights from the pole.
yeah, I have no quarrel with the hanging of the lights because a lot of people do that. But they don't use 8 by 8, 8-foot high posts. They use trellis or.
I personally like the posts. I've been by there several times because it was before these were completed, seeing them half done, I was very concerned. But personally, I don't think it detracts from the historic building. It's on the portion of the addition to the historic building. I personally don't see it as a distraction to the historic character. I'm okay with the 8-foot posts.
And I'll apologize again, that way I'm doing this a little bit backwards in that I didn't know that the landscaping plan fell in the purview of the historic district.
It's in our regulations.
Yep. And it's very different than every other town. So anything in any other town in the state, if it doesn't,
Do you go to other towns and say Block Island's really different? I'm just asking.
well,
I'm just saying, could you please show us the same respect? I'm just saying, you've said this again and again, this other town, this other town.
all I'm just saying is that I didn't
Deserve the same respect they do?
I just didn't purposely do it. All I'm saying is that
Just saying.
if, from what I understood about historic buildings, if it doesn't permanently attach to the building, that it doesn't fall under. So I'm saying I apologize.
With all these businesses and you don't have people that read regulations, it's like your excuse when
Oh, well, now I have to have a designer do it again. Your designer should have read our regs in the first place. That's not our fault.
Mhm.
We're not, you know what I mean? Stop putting this stuff on us. That being said, I have no problem with the pilings either.
I can see where things like that,
I mean, it's just a class act down there. I don't know if you guys have been in the place or around the place. There's no corners cut. I believe him that he didn't know about landscaping because Seth Draper was here for that meeting and he didn't know, and he was glad he showed up for the meeting. So it happens.
100% agreed it happens, but to Bill's point, it's, you apologized, you acknowledged it. Frankly, that's enough. We don't need to hear about every other town. I think.
I'm just,
We appreciate.
I only say in the context of what led me to that decision. That's all.
But it's fair to say that when you're devoting so much to, in an investment of that magnitude, that you would check out what the rules and regulations are in the particular town that
Unfortunately,
you're moving in on.
unfortunately, my architect didn't,
That's,
well, I looked into it.
who shot John is.
Yeah, and so since I looked into it, and therefore that's why I'm waiting to put my fence up around my gas tanks and dumpsters. Now that I understand the rules.
2 or 3 questions that I have. First of all,
looks nice.
I can't make out what you intend in this application, quite frankly. This thing is unreadable, in my opinion.
Okay.
I will say that the treatment of the posts, since the last meeting has made a significant difference. Are we to assume you're abandoning the gates?
Well, after you denied my application, I went through your procedures and standards guidebook several times looking for language that it related to too fancy and too nice, and I couldn't find anything in your guidelines that talked about too fancy and too nice. So I wasn't able to get any further with that.
Well,
But I think inappropriate is probably the right word for what we had come down on. And by appropriate, I mean in keeping with the venue, the feeling of the downtown, the historic,
It very much felt like an opinion, and that's why I went to the procedures and standards to just see if I could find it anywhere, and I couldn't find it anywhere. So no, I'm not abandoning it, but I'm not dealing with it right now.
Okay. But there's a lot, it's a busy diagram and it's really hard to determine what you really are asking for, other than
It's
we know
showing-
we're talking about the posts.
It's showing all the posts where they physically are, it's showing all the lights where they physically are, and it's showing the proposed fence in the top left-hand corner of where I want to hide the propane tanks and the grease receptacle, so people don't have to look at it.
So you're putting a fencing around that or some sort of lattice,
I'm hoping to put a fence so people don't have to look at it. That's not, huh?
a lattice work,
Nope,
That's- It's towards the end of the
you
application.
know, where there's 4 or 5 gas tanks lined up.
by the way, it says here in our regulations on page 21, on historic building, the size and placement should not detract from the historical integrity of the building. And that's what those gates were doing. As with any addition, the detailing should be compatible with the period and style of the main structure.
Not here for the gates.
That's more than an opinion.
That's
Yeah, the gates weren't on the table.
Yeah.
right.
Right, we're not discussing the gates
discussing
tonight.
Back to fence.
Could you just help clarify
Yes,
the
ma'am.
fence? Because going through I do agree with you. It's a little confusing how it's presented. So my understanding is we're here to approve the posts that are up, the lighting, the string lighting, and a fence around the garbage area. But you don't have a drawing showing or an elevation of the actual
No, I have an elevation showing just a small.
right up in this area. But so what you're showing at the end of the application, those images, those are just generic images from.
That's off of their website of, it's basically a fence that doesn't need constant maintenance.
And it's.
But is it lattice? Is it
No.
solid?
Showing it right in the
From
application.
the photos.
Solid panel PVC.
I don't want people looking at a mess, so I'm in a
Yeah,
tough
I-
spot because
I
I got
agree with
traffic on both sides of my
Wonder why he
building.
didn't run down the side of the
So
building.
the height
Because
of
because my
the,
neighbor cut my property line before I bought the building. There's no room for it.
Oh, this white is the fence? Yeah. How high is it?
4 feet.
4 feet from
What is it,
inside or
PVC?
from the ground up.
Yes, ma'am. 4 feet from the top cap
Patio.
of the
the
patio.
post, or, and how tall are the posts?
4 feet.
So how tall is the fence?
They're in line with, well,
Because the photo's not, again, it's a confusing,
so the panels are 4 feet, so then I guess the posts are probably 4'3" to accept the panel.
And will it be white like this or?
Yes, ma'am.
and what's the material?
It's a PVC.
PVC, okay. And then what's the area dimension of the garbage area?
That one I don't have.
Just try to understand the spacing of the posts.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have that number. It's a small little, like, pie shaped piece of thing where the property line kicks out. It was the only place I could put it.
Are there, again, can we go through, would probably, if you're basing this application on this drawing, then we need to know what everything is that you're asking for, which it's hard to know.
Well, it's what I had available.
I mean, conceptual, I think it's terrific, but I agree for the record, I
Yeah.
think for this item, you know, for the record, I
Alright.
would want,
Are there planters in
Clarification.
between these posts?
This fence
Pardon?
in between those posts, no.
What is all this busyness?
They originally wanted planters, but I'm not putting that. I'm gonna put a rope detail in between I wanted to put a rope detail in between the posts so people don't walk off the patio.
Okay, so I guess the point is that we really need to know what you are asking for.
I'm asking for a fence,
But
but I'm
it's
asking
not-
for posts.
It should be reflected in some sort of a drawing so that we can enter that into the.
I provided the best drawing I had available to me.
but for example, you just mentioned between the large posts, you want, some kind of,
There was a rope detail there before and we just want to put the rope detail
but
back.
it's not in the application, I think, to your point.
Yep.
There's, you know, I think conceptually, this is very positive, but I think just for the record, I would want.
Yeah,
some
at
details.
this point, I'm out of money and out of time, so I can't just keep hiring engineers, so I apologize, it's not.
Application just to say, because right now it's open, people can walk through it. That's not your intention. You can do this for free as part of the application. Say it's posts with the.
Well, it's showing
What
it.
we're looking for is a drawing that says what you're gonna do,
Okay,
what you're asking for.
And what are these posts on the side doing?
they're replacing the posts that were there.
But are they 8 feet?
They are not, they're 4 feet.
Can you come in with a more detail with the fence afterwards, you know, like, or is it? Can't do it.
Sorry,
Can he come in with more detail with some drawings for Amanda, or that's?
personally, I would be fine with that because I think conceptually it's there. I have no problem with it. I think for the record, we just need clarification. How high is it?
Length, width.
You talk about
Height.
as-built drawings.
No.
Yeah, or even just clarification. I mean, for example, even on this drawing, you're talking about the roping. If, you know, even if you just showed the roping and had an explanation of what's the spacing between the roping. I mean, I think they're very simple things that I would like to see that are not expensive.
Yeah,
but it's
again, I attempted to show that in that drawing and I didn't accomplish that.
So what do we want to do? Do we want to approve the posts and hold off on the fencing?
The fencing I think the fencing probably is, he's talking about for the gas tanks.
Yeah.
Right, which I think is important to have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's really, given
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that we haven't had any kind of screening down there for a it would really be nice to have it.
Great, no, I'm supportive of this. I just think for our,
Then
not
Current
opposed to
file
that, Martha.
records.
We're not opposed to.
I spent years and years and years and nobody ever said anything. And I would look over there. and
We
say,
just want to know what,
Okay, here's a solution that could possibly work. Mr. Martucci tomorrow gives Amanda the square footage, a site map that accurately depicts where it is and the height and lengths of the fence, and we'll just handle it administratively from there, since it seems that everyone's in
and I think
accordance
the space.
in what it looks like.
And the spacing of the
Material of what the
verticals of
fence
that
looks
roping.
Correct.
And then, yes,
But I'm just saying, I mean, as far as aesthetics, everybody agrees. So unless the other members of the board oppose it being handled administratively as far as materials. I mean, the materials are here, so
right. No, I
we'll see
think
what the
it should be
materials are.
administratively finalized.
And then we'll just finalize it, you know, as long as the square footage is out of control, which it's not. I've already seen the footprint.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And that way it's entered for the record appropriately.
That's all I'm looking for is
Is everybody
for
okay with that?
appropriately for the record.
yeah, I would.
Bill, I'm not sure I disagree with what you're saying. I would like to see this application being finite in something. If he wants more than that, then that probably could be handled administratively. I mean,
What do
there's,
you mean final?
well, we're going to approve the screening, we're going to approve the columns as they're in the posts.
Correct. But the screening will be dependent upon him coming back with the square footage, length, et cetera. And then
I think it's
Harlan
fair.
and I will sign off on it if, you know, as long as that it's.
That's okay.
it-
But I don't want to base it on this drawing because I can't read the drawing. I don't know what else is included on it.
Well, and that's why I've offered this, you know, if you're okay with it aesthetically, you're okay with the premise of it. I have already seen the footprint that it's in. It does not appear to me at this moment, and I have an eye for this, that it's not out of control. So as long as he just, you know, gives us the square footage on the site plan where exactly it does lie, not a guess.
What about the roping?
And
And
the
the rope?
roping, just spec on the rope, you know,
Just
is it
give the
gonna be
distance
2 inch, 2 inch 3 braid, which is pretty much the standard?
One strand or four strands?
That's 3 braid, 2
No.
inch 3 braid.
No.
Are there going to be just
What's
one?
the-
rope?
Oh, one row.
The
yeah,
horizontal spacing.
okay. But, yeah,
Some sort of demonstration.
So you
of
would-
what it's going to
okay.
look like.
So the full
Just a-
motion in this
a
way.
Suggestion is that if you're using PVC down there and the panels are large, they're gonna get blown out. So.
We know.
4 feet, right?
Because of the wind.
We know. Thank you. I appreciate the input.
They get blown out, you replace them.
So
Yes.
I just don't, I wouldn't do lattice. It just doesn't go with the
The
building.
hiding garbage look.
Correct.
No, I'm not saying that lattice, but
Well, if they're,
All right.
Not to make the
Braces
panels
that
too
you won't
big.
see.
He knows, we talked about it when he came to measure the fence. He said, we're gonna have to make sure that this doesn't end up being
you know,
a
it
big
just
stale.
looks like 8 foot wide panels. It's not gonna make it down.
I just grabbed it just so you can see a picture of what the fencing actually looks like from the website.
It's 4 feet high with 4'3" or 4 posts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course I want the posts as short as they can be because it's gonna look odd having them any much higher than the panels.
are they vinyl posts?
So how's this for,
They're 4x4s covered with vinyl, 6x6 is covered with vinyl.
4x4 covers with vinyl.
how's this for a motion that we approve the concept of the fence and posts, well, and the posts and the rope trim pending a submission of of the details of the size of the area that will be fenced and the details of how the roping will work.
To be finalized at an administrative level.
Okay,
Yeah,
Second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
okay, that's done. But we have to get that submission. Then, I think, that's not it. I'm on the wrong page.
oh, you again.
Yeah.
Still,
And this is for the hostel, and it's for the windows. You want to tell us about that?
So I did some digging. I guess there was some confusion between the contractor and, Riverhead. One, it was a lead time issue, I guess, as well as, they said that the Anderson 400s did not meet code.
Oh, it
Um,
does. It does.
So I have the president of the window company on standby. If you have any questions for him, I don't know if you allow expert witnesses into your meeting rooms that aren't on Zoom. They do recognize that they forgot to put the external grid line, the grids, I don't know what they're called. I apologize.
Since-
Munson's, those are being manufactured. I gave Amanda, they're manufacturing and installing them. Hopefully this week, but yeah, that's
so
about
there'll
as
be
much. detail.
simulated true divided light. isn't it?
I'm sorry, sir.
There'll be simulated true divided lights. You have the mullions on the inside.
Which
of
is-
the house and the whole-
Which is Anderson is also simulated.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not, I'm just asking.
Is
what
Yes,
you're
sir.
doing.
But is it equivalent to the Anderson simulated?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
And I noticed here on the original window schedule, they were 2.4 by 4.4. And so what is the size of these new windows?
Exactly the same.
That's not, just so you know, that's not a legal egress window.
I believe because there were sprinklers in the building that they didn't need them, I believe. I'm not sure, but the windows were made to that schedule. They were manufactured specifically for.
So it's just a
that,
different manufacturer.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Now, why did they get manufactured by different companies than the Anderson?
I got two different answers. I got lead time and then someone thought that either that they didn't meet code or that there was an equivalent substitute for the Anderson 400s.
It was lead time. That's the
Probably-
right answer.
Yeah.
That's the true answer.
Okay,
I'm in the business.
yeah.
That was-
Yes.
That's the right answer. If anybody told you anything else, they'd be asking.
Memorial Day weekend here.
Do you,
all
do you
right.
have the building permit already?
I'm sorry.
Do you have do you have the building permit? Because
Have I pulled the permit or have I closed it? I'll close it out. What do you need?
have you pulled the building permit?
We're almost done.
He does have a building permit.
Yeah.
I have to say those dormers really make the building look a lot better.
I want to thank you for that. You've been the second person, but more importantly, the first person on a board to say it.
And I
So
removed
thank you.
myself from that meeting,
Yeah.
but I really think it's.
Yeah, I think it looks good, but obviously I got a horse in the race, but
So
um,
I thank you for doing that.
yeah.
Could have went with just a shed dormer.
Yeah.
And I believe those shingles just age out,
They will.
weather out naturally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bill?
Yes.
That-
Yeah,
that true?
Absolutely.
Yeah, in about a year.
All right, because that,
That building,
Right.
they might age out by like next spring.
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
no problem.
because I looked at,
That's-
I'm not a builder, but I didn't, I said, I don't think that's a stain
Yeah.
on there, so.
No, that'll blend in less than a year.
I was surprised at how quickly they,
A lot of people like do one side at a time, go by the next year, then we'll, just.
All right, so
This is just a clarification.
so are we going to approve
Yes.
substitute windows made by, what is the company?
Sturgis.
Sturgis.
Certus, which have simulated true divided light muntins and are the same design as the original proposed Anderson windows,
That sounds like a motion.
except they're
Okay.
vinyl. I am. that's what I
Okay.
say.
I'll second.
There you go.
All in favor?
Aye.
You're done.
Thank you very much. I
We
really appreciate
did
it.
the drawings for that, the
Yes, ma'am.
Orleans, MAM's military.
Thank you very much for your time and consideration. Appreciate it.
Have a nice night.
Go catch the boat.
When is the restaurant gonna open?
I don't know. Not sure if it'll open at all, actually. Unfortunately.
Huh,
Don't know when employee housing will be done.
What's that?
I don't know when employee housing will be done, so. I might not open at all.
Oh, boy.
I lost my tile guy today and he was supposed to finish for, going to CO next Wednesday, so. This 20, I'm not just throwing the top, so.
Good luck.
Awful lot to get done, I'll have a short time this
Thank you.
time of year.
Right.
all right. The next item is the report. You want to give us the report
Yeah.
of administrative application approvals?
The
Excuse us,
windows.
Bill.
With the blue dory were finished administratively. I have my own microphone on. The windows for the blue dory were approved administratively by Arlene, the owner of Lumber Arnold, or window guy sent the right information, letting us know that they were indeed the same windows. And Salt Pond Settlement had a building permit for replacement of rotted decking that needed to be replaced. That's all I got.
It's all done. Okay,
All done.
and ouch. Uh, The historic district application and preliminary and final process. Has anybody looked at it besides me?
There was a sign we had, I think it was it the last meeting? It was a sign that was going on a building. It had a bunch of other signs on it. Yeah, and the application was only for that sign.
Yeah, that was Aldo's, I think.
Was it, I don't.
Aldo's was different signs for the building. They were replacing Chapel Suites.
Right.
Chapel Suites. Oh, yes.
The Wayfair sign,
What?
the Wayfarer sign for the,
Sign. No, it was a new sign that was going on and we only had it looked all nice and neat and pretty, but it was only that one sign that was going on a building that had other signs on it.
Oh, that's where the fudge shop was.
No, that's the, you think.
That's-
oh, no, that was,
No, it wasn't sweets, it was,
we had, so Leslie came for,
that was one of hers.
it was either the ice cream place
The ice cream place.
or she did the ice cream place, the Wayfarer signs, and the Historical Society.
I think it was a historic, it was a historical. That was the one.
Okay.
They didn't have all the sign.
Right.
That, yeah, I know, I should have known that. I had not seen that, I have an office of that organization, I think I wasn't sitting on it. I wasn't sitting on it, that's why I didn't say anything, but, and it felt like I threw my own organization under the bus, but, there was an application for a sign. And that building has a lot of signs on it. And that was one of the things, I said, any sign application's gotta have, there's gonna be and I thought we had this straightened out years ago, and I thought she knew that, which is what kind of annoyed me. That any sign that comes in for a building has to have all the signs on it. And the most recent one should be in the file. And anybody who's looking to add a sign to an existing building that already has a bunch of signs, they just have to add it to the list, because otherwise you don't have to go. No, it was, thank you. I never would have remembered that. I blocked it out.
Okay, so application process for signs, make sure all the signs on every building are in there.
Yes.
Can do that
And sizes.
in sizes,
And the frontage.
right? Sorry, that one was my mistake. I couldn't read his handwriting, so I typed everything out because I figured if I couldn't read it, you wouldn't be able to read it. And I
Thank you.
Clearly missed a number in there. That was, they are on my
And if this
desk.
happens again, call the owner, have them clarify it.
Yeah.
You can't read it.
When people used to come in the town hall board to do these things, this is way back, the zoning clerk, put a sign that said, if it's not filled in,
Bluffing.
we're not accepting it.
Okay.
And she was super part-time, and I said, Suzanne, I said, you can't. And she said, if they can't fill out the form, they don't deserve the variance. And I thought, she's got a point.
Well, I was just, segues us into the next thing, which is the historic district application. And the only thoughts I have on it is preliminary, I think it looks good, preliminary review and final review, but what it doesn't cover is the person who comes in who wants to change their windows or add a dormer. They shouldn't have to have a site plan showing the proposed building footprint, so there should be for minor alterations, there should be another thing to do.
Non-footprint,
Huh? What?
non-footprint,
Oh,
non.
no. I mean, they don't need sketch it's a minimum scale of 1/8 inch. I mean, did you read this?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, no. I filled them out before.
But, maybe we should number these things, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if it's a small project, a sketch of, the elevation at a minimum scale of 1/8 inch equals a foot. Because if they're changing windows, that's all you really need, you don't need the building footprint or pictures of the neighbors or dressed or undressed.
Mhm. No, I agree.
And, I think we have to revise this so that smaller projects, photographs of the existing site, I think is good, but if it's a smaller project, you don't need adjacent neighboring.
Can you
Right.
put something in the introduction that says, or parentheses says as applicable?
Yeah, but if we number these, we can say if the project is
It-
deemed a minor.
It might be easier to, I don't know, maybe like either make a list of what you consider as a minor project versus changing the application.
Yeah,
The devil is in the detail
Right.
of defining,
Right.
because as a town board, now we have to offer a definition of
because
everything.
our minor projects, I would say window replacement is a minor project.
Or do you
Yeah, there you
want,
go.
do a case by case basis and let you
I
decide?
mean, windows aren't necessarily minor. It depends, in my
Yeah,
opinion,
exactly.
on some of the very significant buildings. There's a hierarchy of historic buildings in this town.
Right.
And for most of them, yeah, it is pretty standard.
But you don't need a site plan for that.
You don't need a site plan for
Okay.
window replacement, or you don't need floor plans.
Right.
But you do need a sketch elevation. Or a section through the applicant's property. You don't need that.
Pictures of all the neighbors' houses.
Right, no, but we need pictures of their property.
The problem, and once I said, herein
Or
lies the problem.
admit- I don't
Unless
think any
you
of.
define all of this, it inevitably is going to lead to.
What, each, do something with this for the next meeting and say what, we agreed that we should have a small project and a larger project, if you want.
But I like your term of minor alteration.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, and I don't know if any of them should submit water and sewer allocations to us. I mean,
That's probably not our purview.
no,
No.
it's on our application.
Right,
Okay.
so I agree
Yeah.
that that's
Take
sort of
that
an
off.
easy simplification.
Right.
Yay, we got one.
I have a question. So if we're talking like minor versus major, so like how Dan McLaughlin was at the last meeting for those dormers, is that considered a minor or would that be considered
Be a minor.
The what?
the
No.
ones for the old Gassner property to make it look like the ones next to it?
Doesn't have to show a site plan,
Yeah, maybe minors.
I'm trying to,
Right.
I'm picturing in my head, is that something you would consider minor?
The Plan is, the building already exists, and you're not changing the
The perimeter of the building.
Perimeter, thank you, of the building. Maybe you don't need a site plan.
Right, it's changing
Right.
in footprints.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything that, whether it's on a porch, adding,
Right.
making it larger, removing a porch,
Yeah.
adding an
and
addition,
if you-
removing an old
okay,
addition.
So if you're
Here's a-
not
here's
changing
a
the
thought.
footprint, then you don't need
But
the
I,
site plan.
Here's a thought, and this goes against my libertarian nature and adding more government and more paperwork, but if we're gonna make designate, how about we have minor alteration, major alteration, and in-kind replacement? And each
Maybe.
one of those three has certain things that are required for it.
but that could be very subjective. It
was a
like
thought,
this- But I like this starting point of change of a footprint.
right? Okay.
Because if there's no
Yeah.
change to the footprint, why do we need the site
Site
plan?
plan.
Right.
Right,
I think that's something that's probably, we can agree on.
there you go, perfect, yes.
So we got rid of
So
water
what-
plans and.
I wasn't here for the dormer thing for the Gasness property, but that's changing the footprint, right? Second floor.
Well, it's actually the footprint.
Not quite scanners.
You changed the overall massing, but
Oh,
not the footprint.
Okay. not
Yeah.
the footprint. There was a second.
Wait, so that didn't answer my question. Is that considered what we're gonna start considering minor alterations? Or is that something we would consider a major?
No, I would consider a dormer a major alteration. A shed, porch,
Take away-
a porch roof, anything that attaches to the building.
That's fine. I'm just,
So maybe we should take away the words minor or major and have sketch site plan showing blah, blah, blah. If the, just add the words, if the project changes the footprint of the building, then a sketch site plan is required.
Yeah,
Right.
that's good.
Oh,
So-
right. Oh, man, think about examples of.
Now, when would we need sketch floor?
If you're putting a second floor porch on an existing porch, you're not changing the footprint,
Right,
but
well, we don't need the site plan.
you don't need a site plan, but you need, it's not minor.
No, we deep six minor and major, okay? We're changing the wording of this so that somebody who's just putting in a dormer or changing the windows doesn't need a sketch site plan.
Right. So when you're adding a porch,
Right. And this,
removing an addition.
right, and I don't, only for additions or new buildings do we need sketch floor plans. We do need, it,
Probably because our purview is not the interior of
Right.
the buildings.
But
There may be exceptions.
what I say is, the interior is only relevant as it informs the exterior.
That's right.
Like
Agreed.
Something like, and it's on record, I don't know if it's ever gonna happen, when the surf, way back, after they stopped putting additions on the surf. The windows are all symmetrical, and the corner that diagonally across from the library, those windows aren't symmetrical anymore. And it says they had to put a firewall in. And if that were done today, I would argue for ghost windows or whatever the term for those is. I saw the term somewhere and I don't remember, of course. But, things like that, because that's why that had to be changed.
But you're right, the Springhouse application, when they did change the windows, having the floor plan was very informative.
Yeah.
Because the end result was the architect modified placement of windows. And that was based on a discussion of what they needed for their office space and.
That was Manasses, not Springhouse, right?
Okay.
Manasses. Oh, it was both? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I don't remember.
so we
little
want
old
to,
architect. Go ahead.
we want floor plans then, sketch
Yeah.
floor plans.
Well, if,
Only for new buildings or additions?
No, we're not saying that,
well,
we're saying,
it depends upon.
Yeah.
changes the exterior, I guess.
Right.
Wait,
As
hold on.
applicable.
If, oh, that's right, has applicable.
Yeah. And if they have a question, they ask you.
Yep.
All right, we do need at least one prominent sketch elevation. We just, you know,
That's fine.
and the sketch,
Man, those tell us nothing.
what?
Those tell us nothing.
Yeah.
That tells me something.
You did
An
it, and it-
elevation.
no, seriously, be
It
honest.
could be a good annotated photograph
The,
elevation.
elevation of the, yellow kittens. You had to be a bird.
That's a fan view. An elevation is the front, like the front of the
Straight on.
building, yeah.
Right. And the straight on, the yellow kittens added a lot of stuff that wasn't there before. And it was all there in the elevation, but it wasn't, you didn't see, because people asked about that, they said, because that is all good and well if you're a bird, was not something I thought of myself. Somebody said that to me, and I've thought about that other times. And the thing that I remember back when I was on zoning, somebody saying, you really want, this is an architect, said you really want renderings. Because it gives you a much better idea of what's gonna look like.
I think we've been pretty lucky with, you know, the IGEA, the Eureka, the bins. I mean, people are making them, you know, nice, you
Yeah.
know, and then like even the kittens, I mean,
Oh, yeah, the kids just doesn't.
knocked it out of park, you know, looks great.
So the sketch site section, if somebody's changing and putting in a dormer, or, I don't think they need a site section. So I would say in the, if there's a new building or an addition to, you know, to the footprint of a building, then the site section.
Or a deck, right?
Yeah. For
Yeah,
or demolition. Addition or removal.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well.
and how about photographs of the existing site? And if there's a major addition or alterations to the building, adjacent neighboring properties, so just add a couple
For
of words in
context.
there. Yeah,
When they,
photographs of the existing site are required.
yeah,
And if it's an addition or major alterations to the existing property, then adjacent neighboring properties are also required. Photographs of.
okay.
So he's kind of adding something in the middle of that. And we're taking out the water and sewer.
Why don't you draft up a draft
Well,
and then we can.
if she's taking notes, so she'll draft it up and then we'll talk about it at the next meeting.
Oh,
That'd be great.
I won't change it. Well, I'll make a draft for the next one and.
Where those beams are.
Yeah.
What else? Mhm.
Yeah.
There's a stripe.
I mean, these
Oh,
few things are
nuts.
already an improvement.
I never would have
Right.
thought thus. Through it.
My only, I guess, request is
Your
going
bid.
forward with you like preliminary and when we do citing and massing versus final, make sure you specify that, so I don't do the wrong thing. Is that happen? Once,
No way.
yeah. Don't worry, Jen caught it, but I still did it.
Well, here again, for final review, that same wording, you know, about adjacent sites and buildings. You know, only if this is a new building or an addition.
There's something that I don't know if it's actually in the guidelines, and I say this every time this comes up because I never get around to going back and reading the guidelines. And I don't know if this was put in the very beginning, just to make everything more palatable. But this idea that it's not an historic building, therefore, we don't have to be so careful with it.
Well, it's in the historic district though.
Exactly, that's my point. That it should be, it shouldn't, because the building that's 20 years old today is gonna be 50 years old, 30 years from now. And that was something that, previous board members, I think that they may all be gone by now, all would push, well, it's a new building, so it doesn't matter. So, yeah, it does. It's going to, but maybe not today. And it is part of the fabric, and that's what's really important.
And the next page for new buildings, okay. And major additions, right? Or additions to existing buildings. Then you need floor plans of all levels.
I'm looking at the chicken, literally walking, like. The signage has gotten ridiculous with the chicken growing
Wasn't
again.
one of- they're all
There's a
done.
chicken walking across the town hall lawn right now.
Yeah, they live here.
Oh, they live here.
They've been here for years.
Oh, God.
With the snapping turtles. I'm not kidding. I watched them.
And I think the last thing is when requested by the commission, we may need a rendering.
Requested by the commission.
Yeah. So that happened with us with Manassas.
Is there anything about copies on there? I know that sounds weird, but. Copies,
should be.
we've been, so they obviously provide us copies in some of the
Said
plan,
8 copies.
right? I know that's on there. I'm getting to my question, sorry. So like, when they came with the Harborside, he gave us the big sets of plans. And for something like that, I understand having at least one big set, but not 11 by 17 is fine, right? For as long as you can read it. And if I get one big set, if it's something like that, if I get one big set and then everything else is 11 by 17, are you okay with that?
Yeah, if you
Absolutely.
bring the big set to the meeting, so
Yeah.
that if we have questions.
Right. That's why if I get one for the record and then everything
Yeah.
else is 11 by 17, is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We kill a lot of trees and to a certain extent, we incur a lot of cost on people on
Yeah.
large print
Oh, yeah.
sets.
Oh, yeah. No, I don't,
Um,
there's no reason why
Yeah,
we all need one.
Right.
we kill a lot of trees.
Right.
And that's a carpenter saying that. That's.
Well, you want the trees.
Yeah, you want.
I want the price down.
Okay, so Amanda's going to make these revisions and then give it to us for the next meeting. And we'll talk about it some more.
Just as a matter of information, I've been asked a couple of times about Bill Dunn's house, Lynn Paquin's house by the bridge. Because CRMC apparently has an application for the old barn or the barn foundation. It's a little uncertain what it is. And
Which property?
the property in the painting, I'm sorry,
Right on the corner of Beach and.
Swallow, Sparrow. Right, and they've got, I'm not sure if it's the foundation or if it's the foundation. There's a foundation there in the brush that's been there since the 80s. But anyhow, CRMC has an application for a piece of that real estate that is not the main house. And I've gotten 2 people insisting that they've got an application to tear down the main house, and that's not what's going on, if anybody hears that.
Okay.
Well, they just did the new owners just did a whole pile of work for us,
Yeah.
so that would be kind of stupid.
This is one of these people who only goes on the internet and never refuses to ever ask anybody. Because lots of misinformation.
The I love Block Island, misinformation line.
So let's see if we can read and approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I forgot to give you this. I would have dramatic reading on your report.
Yeah.
No, why don't we table that till?
If
the-
you're okay with continuing it to next meeting, I was so focused on the windows that I never got you the minutes, I'm sorry.
Okay,
That's the only thing you talked about. Yeah. going with it.
all right.
I was, Saturday morning get emails about windows, and it's fine, but like I was so focused on the windows. I forgot
We'll table the minutes and we'll approve them at the next meeting.
They are- Awesome.
Um, Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
Comments from the
Ah.
audience.